You ever hear a story so wild that you're like, nah, there's no way that actually happened. And then you start digging in, and it's like, oh, it's real, it's documented, and it's been told for thousands of years. So imagine this. There's this guy living in a time where the entire system, the whole culture, is built around worshiping these man-made idols. Stone, wood, metal, the works. Everyone's into it. The king, the army, the high priests, the crowds, completely locked in. And this one dude just says no. Doesn't just keep it to himself either. He starts calling everyone out, smashing idols, challenging the entire belief system of the most powerful people around. In that time, it's not just risky, it's a death sentence. So the leaders, the king, they decide, all right, you want to go against us? Let's make an example out of you. They build this massive fire, not like a campfire. I'm talking a raging city-level inferno. The kind of heat where you can't even get near it without burning your face off. People are watching from miles away, waiting to see this guy vanish in flames. And here's the twist. He walks into it, and nothing happens. He's standing there, calm, untouched. The fire doesn't even singe his clothes. Imagine being in that crowd. Imagine being the king, watching the guy you just tried to erase, standing there like it's a cool spring day. It flips the entire power structure on its head in one moment. This isn't just about surviving something impossible. It's about a human being standing up against the ultimate pressure saying, no, I'm not bending. I'm not playing your game. And then somehow the universe backs him up in the most spectacular way possible. Picture this, you wake up one day and you realize the world around you is running on something you know is wrong. Not just a little off, not just a harmless quirk, but deeply wrong. Everywhere you look, people are bowing to the same thing, following the same script, never questioning it. You go to work and it's there. You walk down the street and it's there. Even in your own family, it's there. It's woven into the culture so tightly that if you speak against it, you're not just disagreeing, you're breaking the unspoken law of the entire system. And now imagine you're the only one who sees it clearly. Not a group, not a movement, not a hidden underground of rebels, just you, no backup, no safety net. And here's the real kicker. You're not just quietly disagreeing in your head, you're speaking it out loud, telling people straight to their faces, this is wrong. It's like walking into a room full of people who've spent their whole lives believing the sky is green, and you go, nope, it's blue, and you all know it. Think about how people react when you challenge their comfort zone. Even in our world today, try telling your office that the company's golden rule is flawed. Try telling your friends that the thing they worship, whether it's money, fame, a certain lifestyle, is actually hollow. They won't thank you for opening their eyes. They'll turn on you. They'll mock you. They'll try to break you down, because when you shake someone's foundation, they don't cling to the truth. They cling to what's familiar. This man stood in the middle of that storm without blinking. He wasn't doing it for clout or to look like a rebel or to get likes on social media. There was no audience to applaud him, only a mob waiting to silence him. But here's the thing. When you believe in something so strongly, the fear of standing alone disappears. You stop measuring your safety by how many people agree with you. You measure it by how much you're willing to lose for what's right. Imagine someone at your job being told, play along with this unethical thing or you're done here. Most people fold. They rationalize. It's just one time. That's how the system works. I need to survive. But then there's that rare person who says, no, I'm not playing that game. They know they might lose everything, money, status, even relationships. But they also know if they betray their own values, they've already lost something much bigger. That's what this man was doing. And it's not like the stakes were just a bad performance review or getting unfriended by your cousin. No, the stakes were life or death. The rulers weren't handing out warning letters. They were building a furnace. The air was thick with smoke before the first spark even lit, and still, he didn't back down. You could have walked up to him and said, listen, just say you agree with them, nod your head, pretend to play along, and you can go home. And he would have looked you dead in the eye and said, what's the point of going home if I have to live a lie to get there? We live in a world where the loudest voices are often the safest ones, the people who know exactly how far they can push without risking anything real. But when someone decides, I'm going to speak the truth even if it costs me everything, that shakes something in us. because deep down we know how hard it is. It's easy to be brave when your friends cheer you on. It's easy to be bold when the crowd's with you. But real courage, that's when you're staring down a wall of people, every single one of them telling you to shut up or pay the price, and you open your mouth anyway. People think fearlessness means not feeling fear, but that's not it at all. Fearlessness is feeling the heat, feeling the pressure, knowing exactly what you're up against, and still stepping forward. It's walking into a room where you know you're outnumbered and saying, "I'm not here to fit in. I'm here to stand." It's refusing to let the fear of being alone outweigh the fear of being fake. And maybe that's the piece we can pull into our own lives. Because not all of us will face a giant fire, but all of us will face moments where the room goes quiet and everyone's looking at us, waiting to see if we'll stick to what we believe or if we'll bend just to make it easy. It might be in a meeting, it might be at the dinner table, it might be staring at a text message you know will cause an argument if you hit send. Those are the fires. That's where you either choose comfort or conviction. When you see someone willing to take that hit for the truth, it's not just inspiring, it's a mirror. It makes you ask yourself, would I? And that's the moment that can change the entire direction of a life, because once you've seen that kind of stand, you can't unsee it. You start to feel it in your own choices. And sooner or later, your moment comes. And the question isn't, what will it cost me? It's, what will it cost me if I stay silent? Imagine standing in front of something that everyone else sees as impossible to overcome. Not just difficult, not just dangerous, but absolutely certain to destroy you. People are whispering, shaking their heads, saying you're done for. And the worst part, they're not even wrong by normal standards. By the logic of the world, this is the end. It's like being strapped into a seat on a roller coaster that only goes one way, straight into the fire. Now here's the picture. They build this thing not out of necessity, but out of rage. It's not enough for them to stop you quietly. They want to make a spectacle. The fire isn't just about heat. It's about intimidation. It's a warning to anyone else who might think about doing what you did. The crowd gathers not because they care about truth or justice, but because human beings love a show. The smell of burning wood fills the air. The crackle grows louder, and everyone is waiting for that moment where you break, where you panic, beg, or run, but you don't. You stand there calm, like you're waiting for a bus, like the inferno in front of you is nothing more than a warm breeze. Imagine the people watching expecting to see you reduced to ash, and instead seeing you step forward without flinching. That's the kind of moment that doesn't just burn into memory, it burns into history. And here's the thing that really blows the mind. It's not about arrogance. It's not about thinking you're untouchable. It's about knowing that sometimes the only way to show the truth is to walk straight into the thing meant to destroy you. It's the same in everyday life, just less dramatic in scale. Maybe your fire is standing up in a meeting when the whole room is agreeing on something you know is wrong. Maybe your fire is telling your family you're taking a completely different path than the one they've planned for you since you were a kid. Maybe it's quitting a job that's killing your spirit, even though you have no idea what comes next. People will say you're crazy. They'll tell you to be realistic, to think about your future. But here's the truth. There's nothing realistic about living in a way that kills you slowly just because you're afraid of one big risk. When you see someone step into their fire and come out untouched, it's not just a miracle. It's proof that the impossible isn't always impossible. Imagine the dialogue in that moment. Someone in the crowd shouts, "Turn back, you're not going to survive this." And you look at them and say, "If I turn back, I'm already gone." Another voice yells, "Just agree with them, just say what they want." And you answer, "Then I'd be lying, and the lie would burn me worse than any fire." Someone close to you, maybe even a friend, pleads, "Think about your family, think about your life," and you respond, "This is me thinking about my life. This is me protecting what makes it worth living." In our day, today we face smaller versions of that crowd and that fire. Maybe your boss is the king in this story, building pressure instead of flames. Maybe your peers are the ones watching, waiting to see if you'll conform. Maybe the smoke is just the fear in your own head, whispering that you can't make it. But the principle is the same. Either you walk forward with conviction, or you let the heat scare you into submission. And it's wild how quickly the crowd changes once they see you standing in the fire untouched. The same people who called you foolish will be the ones saying they always knew you'd make it. The same voices that mocked you will be the ones telling your story to others. And deep down, you know it wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving yourself right, proving that your belief, your truth was worth the risk. So when you think about your own fire, remember this. It's not the heat that defines you, it's the way you face it. Every person who's ever done something remarkable has walked through a moment where everyone thought they'd be finished. Every great story has a point where the hero is surrounded, outmatched, and still takes the next step. That moment isn't just for legends or history books. It's for anyone willing to stand in front of the flames and say, I'm not moving. Picture this. When someone in power feels threatened, they don't just argue with you, they try to erase you. And it's never subtle. They want to make it loud, public, and unforgettable so that everyone watching learns the same lesson. Never challenge us. That's exactly what was happening here. The most powerful leaders of the time, people who had armies at their command and control over every part of society, were shaken by one person's refusal to bow. They could have ignored him. They could have tried to quietly remove him from the picture, but no, ego doesn't work like that. Ego needs a stage. So they decide to create a fire, not just any fire, something so massive, so terrifying that even the thought of it would make most people break before they ever got near it. They wanted this fire to be more than just a punishment. They wanted it to be a message carved into the minds of everyone watching. If you dare to resist us, this is where you end up. You can almost imagine the orders being shouted, the wood being gathered in heaps, the fuel being poured until the smell was thick in the air, soldiers running back and forth, the crowd growing with every passing minute, everyone whispering about the spectacle they were about to witness. And here's where it gets interesting. This isn't just a story about ancient power. This happens today in different forms. Maybe your fire is when a corporation, a boss, or even a social circle decides to humiliate you for not going along with their game. Maybe they don't light actual flames, but they try to burn your reputation, your career, your name. They'll gather an audience, spread rumors, make an example out of you so no one else dares to think for themselves. Imagine that moment. The air is hot before the flames even touch it, your skin prickling from the sheer heat radiating off the blaze. People are looking at you with a mix of fear and pity, some shaking their heads like, why didn't you just stay quiet? A guard leans in and says, you can walk away from this. Just nod. Just say you were wrong. It's that simple. And you look back and say, if I lie now, I'll never be able to look at myself again. That's the thing. Powerful leaders always overestimate the strength of fear, and they underestimate the strength of conviction. They think if they make the fire big enough, everyone will break. They don't realize that sometimes the bigger the fire, the bigger the statement when someone walks into it without hesitation. In life, we face these smaller fires all the time. Maybe it's the day you refuse to participate in office politics, even though it means losing the promotion. Maybe it's telling your friends you're done with the destructive habits they're all comfortable with, knowing they might cut you off. Maybe it's standing up to a family tradition that's been passed down for generations, but you know it's wrong. And in those moments, the people in control will turn up the heat. They'll make the consequences look so overwhelming that you start to question whether you can handle it. Picture the crowd as the fire roars higher, kids on their parents' shoulders, soldiers keeping order, the leaders standing back with smug confidence, thinking this whole thing is already decided. One of them leans over to another and says, watch. The moment the flames touch him, the people will fall back in line. But you're standing there not even blinking because you know the truth. Fires like this don't destroy the person who stands in them. They destroy the illusion that power is invincible. And here's a line that sticks. You think the fire will scare me. The fire is just wood and heat. What you're asking me to give up is who I am. And that's something I'll never hand over. Imagine saying that and meaning every word. The leaders, the crowd, the soldiers, they're all betting on the same thing, that fear will make you fold. But when you don't, when you walk toward the very thing they built to break you, the balance shifts. Because suddenly, it's not about their power anymore. It's about your courage. And once courage shows itself, it's contagious. Imagine this. Word has spread through the entire city, and it's moving fast. You can hear it in the marketplace, in the streets, in the whispers between neighbors leaning out of their windows. They're going to do it today. They're finally going to make an example of him. People drop whatever they're doing, closing up their stalls, leaving their chores half finished, grabbing their children's hands and pulling them along. It's not every day you get to watch someone stand up to the rulers and then get crushed for it. By the time you get to the square, it's packed. People are pressed shoulder to shoulder, some standing on carts and barrels to get a better view. The air is buzzing with anticipation, like before a big fight or a major announcement. Some faces are lit with excitement, others with a kind of uneasy curiosity, and just a few, carry something else entirely respect. The fire is already roaring in the center, a tower of flame so intense that even from far back you can feel the heat on your skin. And this is the thing, crowds have always been fascinated by public punishment. It's as old as history itself. Maybe it's because deep down, people want to believe that power is absolute, that anyone who challenges it will be destroyed. It's safer that way. It means they don't have to question their own compliance. They can go home, tell themselves they were right to stay silent, and sleep easy. But think about the psychology here. In our world today, it's not always a fire in a town square. It's a viral moment on social media. It's a coworker getting called out in a meeting. It's someone being shamed online for not following the crowd. And just like back then, people gather. They don't gather physically, but they scroll, they comment, they share. They wait for the moment the guilty person breaks. Because deep down, watching someone else fall makes them feel a little safer in their own small compromises. Now picture yourself in the middle of that crowd. You're standing on tiptoe, trying to see over the heads in front of you. When the murmur starts, there he is. The guards push through, dragging the man who refused to bend. No chains on his hands, no fear in his eyes. He walks like someone taking a morning stroll. People lean in, wanting to see a flicker of panic, a drop of sweat, something that proves he knows what's coming. But there's nothing, and here's where the energy shifts. The crowd came for entertainment, for the satisfaction of watching the powerful crush the defiant. But the longer they look at him, the more they feel something they weren't expecting. Doubt. Not about him, but about themselves, because courage like that acts like a mirror. Suddenly, you're not just watching him, you're asking yourself, what would I do if I were in his place? A man in the crowd shouts, "Just say you were wrong! It's not worth dying for!" And without raising his voice, the man answers, "If I say I was wrong when I know I'm right, then I've already died." A woman yells, "Think of your life!" And he smiles slightly, "I am thinking of my life. That's why I'm here." It's not just defiance, it's presence. The kind of presence that comes from knowing that sometimes one act of standing firm can ripple through an entire society. And that's the thing the rulers never count on. The crowd doesn't always go home thinking, "He was a fool." Sometimes they go home thinking, "Maybe we've been fools for staying quiet." In your own life, this crowd moment happens every time people gather to watch you face consequences for choosing principle over comfort. Maybe they're your colleagues, watching to see if you'll back down when you challenge a bad decision at work. Maybe they're your friends, watching to see if you'll break when you stop following the group's unhealthy habits. Maybe it's your own family, expecting you to cave when you refuse to compromise your values. They gather not because they want to support you, but because they want to witness the inevitable moment you fall. But what if, instead of falling, you stand? What if, instead of shrinking, you walk forward with that same calm? Like the flames ahead of you are nothing compared to the fire that would burn inside you if you betrayed yourself. Suddenly, the crowd sees something they weren't prepared for, the possibility that fear isn't the only option. And in that moment, even if they never admit it, you've planted a seed in their minds that might one day make them stand in their own fire. Imagine standing there, staring at a wall of flames so hot that the air around it is shimmering like water. The heat is so intense you can feel it from a distance, your skin prickling, your throat going dry. People in the crowd are squinting, covering their faces with their hands, because even standing far back is almost unbearable, and yet you're supposed to walk straight into it. Everything your senses are screaming is telling you one thing: don't do it. The human instinct to survive is pulling at you to telling you to turn, to run, to give up, to take the easy way out. But instead, you take a step forward. You can almost hear the collective gasp ripple through the crowd. They lean in, eyes wide, expecting you to burst into flames the second you get close. Someone in the front row mutters under their breath, "This is over, he's done." A few others nod, waiting for the smoke to rise and swallow you. But then the impossible happens. You step fully into the fire and nothing. No scream, no collapse, no frantic attempt to escape. You're just standing there. Now think about what that moment means. Because it's not just about surviving the fire, it's about what it represents. In life, the fire is whatever trial or challenge everyone thinks will destroy you. It's the bankruptcy they think you'll never recover from. It's the heartbreak they think will leave you broken forever. It's the public failure that people assume will end your career, your reputation, your confidence. They gather, whether in person or online, waiting for the spectacle of your collapse. But instead, they see you calm, steady, untouched. And here's the crazy part. When you survive something that's supposed to destroy you, it doesn't just change how people see you, it changes how you see yourself. Because you realize that the limits you thought were there aren't. You realize that all the fear, all the doubt, all the certainty that you couldn't handle it was just smoke. And the fire, as terrifying as it looked, wasn't stronger than you. Imagine the dialogue in that moment. A voice from the crowd yells, "Oh, are you still standing?" And you look at them and say, "Because the fire can't touch what's real in me." Another voice shouts, "You should have been gone by now." And you reply, "I was never here to prove I could survive your fire. I'm here to prove your fire was never as powerful as you thought." That's the thing. They built that fire with the belief that it was unbeatable. They wanted it to be the symbol of absolute control. But the moment you stand in it, untouched, the symbol is gone. It's like someone telling you your dream is impossible, then you go out and do it anyway. The moment you succeed, their argument doesn't just weaken, it evaporates. Think about the everyday fires people walk into. Maybe it's a single mom working 2 jobs while going to school, and everyone says, "You can't keep that up, you'll burn out." But she keeps going, and years later, she walks across that graduation stage with her kids cheering. Maybe it's the entrepreneur whose first business collapses and everyone says, "You're finished." But they start again, and the next one changes their entire life. Maybe it's the person who loses everything, money, home, relationships, and everyone expects them to fade away, but they rebuild stronger than before. When you walk through your own fire and come out the other side, you don't need to argue with doubters anymore. You don't need to convince them of anything. You are the proof. Your existence after the fire is the loudest statement you could ever make. And here's the real beauty. You don't just inspire others, you give them a blueprint. They look at you and think, if they could stand in that and come out whole, maybe I can too. And maybe that's the lesson. Sometimes you can't go around the fire. Sometimes you can't wait for it to burn out. Sometimes the only way forward is straight through it. And when you do, when you stand in the middle of something that should have ended you and it doesn't, you'll realize that the fire was never the real danger. The real danger was believing you couldn't survive it. Picture the moment after it happens. The fire is still roaring. The wood still cracking under the heat, smoke curling up into the sky, but the man they threw in is standing there untouched. People can't look away. Some blink, rub their eyes, thinking it's a trick, a shadow, some kind of illusion. Others are frozen, mouths open, their minds scrambling to make sense of what they're seeing. You can feel the weight in the air. That sudden silence when thousands of thoughts collide in the same instant. If this is real, then everything we believed about power, about control, about truth is wrong. And that's the thing about a moment like this. It's not just a victory for one person. It's a crack in the foundation of an entire system. The ones in power built their rule on fear. They told the people, if you cross us, we will crush you. If you resist, we will burn you. And for years, for generations maybe, everyone believed it. Not because they had proof, but because no one dared to test it. And now, in front of their own eyes, someone has walked through the very punishment they all feared most and walked out whole. Think about how this plays out in real life today. A corporation tells its employees, you can't survive without us. Then someone leaves, starts something on their own, and thrives. A toxic family says, you'll never make it without our approval. Then someone breaks away, builds a better life, and comes back stronger than ever. A society whispers, people like you don't succeed here. Then someone from that very group not only succeeds, but does it in a way no one can ignore. The second it happens, the unspoken rules start to crumble. Imagine the dialogue. One of the rulers leans over to his advisor, his face pale, and mutters, this shouldn't be possible. The advisor, eyes still fixed on the figure in the flames, whispers back, then maybe we were wrong. In the crowd, someone clutches their friend's arm and says, if he can stand there, what else have they lied about? A child tugs at their mother's sleeve and asks, why isn't he burning? And the mother, unable to answer, realizes she's questioning everything she's been taught since she was young. That's what shakes people. It's not just witnessing survival, it's witnessing the collapse of what they thought was unshakable. Because when you see the impossible happen, you can't go back to thinking the way you did before. It plants a seed of doubt in the story the powerful have been telling all along. And in everyday life, this is why your victories matter more than you think. When you do something people swore couldn't be done, especially people in authority, it doesn't just change your life, it changes the lives of everyone who watched. Maybe you're the first in your family to graduate. Maybe you're the first in your community to break into a certain industry. Maybe you walk away from a destructive relationship that no one thought you'd have the strength to leave. In each of those moments, you're not just proving them wrong, you're showing others that they can break free too. Picture a group of coworkers in a break room. For years, they've complained about the way the boss treats them, but no one does anything because they believe speaking up will ruin them. Then one day, someone calls it out openly, faces the backlash, and comes out better than before. The room changes. The power dynamic shifts. People start asking themselves, what's actually stopping me from speaking up? That's the ripple effect. Or imagine a young athlete from a tiny, overlooked town making it to the world stage. The kids back home who've been told no one from here ever makes it suddenly have proof that it's possible. The town feels different. The air feels different. Dreams that felt too big yesterday suddenly feel within reach. That's the real magic of a moment that shakes the foundations. It doesn't just take down a false belief, it replaces it with a new one. It whispers to everyone watching, the limits aren't where you think they are. And once that thought is planted, it spreads quietly but relentlessly until the fear that kept people obedient starts to fade. And maybe the most powerful part is that the rulers can't undo what just happened. They can make excuses, they can try to twist the story, they can distract with new threats, but they can't unshow the crowd what they've seen. Once people witness the collapse of an old truth, it's like waking up. You can't fall asleep in the same way again. And from that moment on, the fire they used to keep everyone in line no longer looks like a weapon. It just looks like smoke and light. And so here's the truth that no one in power ever wants you to realize. Your greatest weapon isn't the resources you have, the connections you know, or even the skills you've built. Your greatest weapon is the refusal to bow when you know you're standing in the right place. Because when you refuse to break, you show the world that their fire, no matter how big, is nothing compared to the fire inside you. People will always try to tell you what you can't do. They'll dress it up as concern. They'll say it like they're trying to protect you. But deep down, it's just fear talking. Fear they've lived with for so long that they've started calling it wisdom. Fear that's been passed down like an heirloom. And the only way to break that cycle is to prove it wrong with your actions, not your arguments. There will come a day when you're standing on the edge of your own fire. It might not be flames you can see, but you'll feel the heat. It'll be the risk of losing your job if you speak the truth. It'll be the risk of losing people you love if you stand by your values. It'll be the risk of walking away from something safe into something completely unknown. And in that moment, the temptation to step back will be strong. You'll tell yourself that now isn't the right time, that maybe later will be better. But later never comes for people who keep stepping away from the edge. There's a line I once heard that stuck with me. Fear kills more dreams than failure ever will. Failure is just an outcome. Fear is a cage you build yourself, one bar at a time, until you're standing behind it looking out at the life you could have had. And the wild thing is, the door is almost always unlocked. You just have to walk through it. If you want to live a life that means something, you have to be willing to be misunderstood. You have to be willing to have people laugh at you, doubt you, call you crazy. And here's the paradox. One day, those same people will tell your story as if they always believed in you. They'll say, I knew they'd make it, when in reality, they were betting against you every step of the way. But that's not your concern. Your concern is building a life that, when you look back, makes you proud you didn't fold. Don't just survive your fire, stand in it so fully that it becomes the proof others need to face their own. Be the reason someone else says, if they can do it, so can I. Because courage is contagious, and every act of defiance against fear lights a spark in someone else's heart. So when that moment comes, and it will come, don't look at the size of the flames. Look at the size of your reason for walking through them. If your reason is big enough, the fire won't matter. Remember this, ships aren't built to stay in the harbor. Muscles aren't built without resistance. And a soul isn't built without trials. You will be tested. You will be pushed to the edge. And in that moment, you'll have two choices: step back into safety and regret, or step forward into risk and freedom. Every great life, every powerful legacy, every story worth telling was built by someone who chose the second. One day, you'll tell your own story, and you'll want to tell it without flinching, without shame, without that quiet ache of knowing you let fear win. So stand tall, take the step, walk into your fire, and when you come out the other side, whole and unbroken, the world will never see you the same way again. And more importantly, you will never see yourself the same way again.